Zamboni's on 7th Restaurant and Bar at 174 West 7th Street, right across the street from Grand Casino Arena. We're going to keep calling it the X. More than just your go-to spot before, during, and after all your favorite downtown events, Zamboni's on 7th is now your spot for late-night downtown eats. On game days, event days, and plain old regular days, Tuesday through Saturday. Zamboni's on 7th is now serving their delicious tavern-style pizza, as well as fried specialties late into the night. Check out their menu online at zambonison7th.com or stop by for a few beers, cocktails, or sodas and dig in. Zamboni's on 7th. Before, during, and after. Way after.
Alrighty. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Wildly Informed. Brett and Isha back with you to talk everything Minnesota Wild, NHL, analytics, a little bit of fighting, and more. About 2 weeks away from Christmas Eve, which is crazy to say. We don't even have all our decorations up in my house yet.
Oh, man.
And it's like, we're going to get them up, and they're going to be up for 2 weeks, and they're going to take them down again. But yeah, it's been crazy busy. Not as good of a week for the Minnesota Wild, 2-2 since we last recorded, I believe. But got some wins, still playing overall pretty good hockey, minus a dud in Calgary. I thought the game they lost against Vancouver, I think, was more bad luck more than anything. We'll talk a little bit about the previous games, talk a little bit of news, talk a little bit about my guy Nico Sturm, talk a little bit about depth scoring. Probably a little bit shorter show today, unless chat gives us some topics toward the end of the show, but we will see what happens. But before we get into everything, Isha, how's it going tonight, my friend?
Pretty good. It's funny you mentioned you haven't put up any Christmas lights. I was at Back Channel Brewing today, picked up a bunch of the Soviet Savior ode to Kirill Kaprizov. I don't know. Did we? I think we actually missed it. I think it was that was our week off. But the Sota Pod has officially done a collaboration with Back Channel Brewing, and it's a tip of the cap to Kirill Kaprizov, the Soviet Savior, as Back Channel every year as an ode to Herb Brooks. They have the Soviet Slayer, but we decided in our Sota Pod collaboration to do the Soviet Savior with Kirill Kaprizov. I think I have a bottle. You can kind of see it in the top left corner. I'll bring it. I'll show it off later in the show. But anyway, so I was there picking up some more bottles, hanging out with the folks there, and they do a thing called the Jingle Bar all of December. They have events from December 1st all the way till New Year's, and Brett, it is decked out like you cannot believe. More lights, streamers, Christmas ornaments than you can even count. So it is crazy, and big shout out to the folks at Back Channel. You can see we did a little tasting. Myself and one of the owners, Josh Letty, did a tasting of all three of the barrel-aged beers, or not all three of the barrel-aged beers, all three of their Imperial Stouts, one of which being a barrel-aged that they released this season, and it's awesome that we're able to do our second beer collaboration with our friends at Back Channel.
I got to find a time to get over there still. I want to, but it's just
it's out of the way, but it's worth it. Either go for a Wild game, a Vikings game, or just look up some of their events, because they always just have a bunch of fun stuff going on.
Maybe try to find something when winter break-ish time, hopefully. But yeah, it's just we have our tree up at least, and we got some more stuff up tonight. Started wrapping presents, so we're getting there.
Put it this way, Brett. January, they would love for you to come into the door, because breweries, they as much as Back Channel and my friends Josh and Melissa, the owners, they're all about the health and wellness. But dry January is not a brewery owner's friend. So yeah, so come out to the brewery in January.
Hey, if it means less crowds and shorter lines and whatever else, sign me up. So
I mean, they, much like a lot of the Minnesota breweries, they have a lot of NA products, from hop water to THC, CBD seltzers to just other drinks as well, because they're pretty just welcoming on you don't have to drink.
A lot of breweries have kind of had to do that out of necessity, just to kind of stay relevant. Because if one starts doing it, you kind of have to match it and stuff. So it's been cool to try all the different beyond beers almost.
Yeah.
At all the different places and stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Phenomenal. So.
Yeah. Big shout, by the way, to MN Simon. He's been a member of the channel for 9 months. I want to give a big shout out to Simon here. Thank you so much
Big shout out to the support.
Dude, you're the fucking man. And Scott, my friend Scott from the City Life, also we got basically Scott into hockey last year with the World Junior streams that we did. And Scott, we're literally like 2 weeks away from the World Juniors starting.
Yeah, also crazy. Also wild that they have not released upper level tickets for that yet.
They're just banking on like a wave of Canadians coming down last minute. They ain't coming, bro. They ain't coming.
They're like, we want to go, but we ain't paying $100 to sit in the lower level.
No, it's insane. It's insane. As soon as Red Deer was announced for like the Canadian spot, everyone's like, "Yeah, fuck Minnesota. We're just gonna wait 1 more year and go to Red Deer."
Which is weird because weren't they just there?
They go there often because it's like Calgary. Red Deer's an hour, not even an hour north of Calgary, or it's like in between Calgary and Edmonton. So it's like they can do Edmonton, Red Deer, Calgary, and it's easier than going.
Toronto Hamilton one. I feel like that one's not horrible, is it?
I mean, it's not that horrible either.
But I mean, Minneapolis, St. Paul, that's a pretty easy one. Don't come here very often.
Yeah. Yeah, they went to What did they do in Buffalo? They do one in Buffalo and one in Canada somewhere. I forget.
It's a good question. I actually can't remember.
I can't remember
all
either.
Kind of blend together.
Or maybe they just did them all in Buffalo.
Yeah.
That was I remember Brady Tkachuk was on Team USA. Pedersen was on Sweden. I was in college, and I remember that World Juniors vividly because I sent an email to one of my teachers who just seemed cool, and this was like, I don't know, first week of class, right when like the semifinals are on, and I was like, "Listen, I'm not coming to class. It's World Juniors. I'll see you next week." And he literally just messaged me back. I understood with the little Canadian flag, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this teacher's good." Oh man, are you looking up the prices right now?
Orchard Park was the other place, which
okay.
Looks like it's a nearby area to Buffalo. I don't know my New York geography very well, but okay. So
yeah, in Canada, I can tell you like because I know so many of the junior hockey teams. I can be like, oh yeah, I know where that smaller town is, right? Okay. Victoria to Vancouver, friggin' Hamilton to Toronto.
There you go. Simon in the chat. It's where the Bills Stadium is.
Okay.
Perfect. So like a Minneapolis St. Paul kind of situation. So yeah, really really excited for that. Really hoping to get down to some games and stuff. Whether it's the U.S. or not. Canada just kind of released their final roster, and it actually looks insane for once. Like there wasn't a lot of complaints about it for like the first time in a while. They didn't big brain it, and like that was with leaving some. I think with Bedard and Celebrini both eligible. I think.
Yep.
Or one of them was, but they didn't bring those guys. But yeah, I think they're both eligible. They're not obviously going, but because they might both be going to the Olympics instead, potentially, as we've talked about. I think on this show, I think Hoppy and Z talked a little bit about it on their show. I think it was last night they did their show. I think I jumped in there for a little bit, but yeah, I mean they have like guys that have played NHL games this year on their roster. So again, as it always seems to be the story, Canada's tournament to lose, but I'm sure some of the other shows will dive a little bit deeper. Not exactly my area of expertise, but definitely looking forward to watching that. Always fun to tune in and watch the young guys play in that tournament. So
yeah, I mean, I will either be at a bar in Dinkytown, Tom Reed's, or streaming the games if I'm not in at the game itself. So there'll be a lot of coverage coming from us as well, and then right into Olympics as well. I'll be covering all that stuff too. But honestly, the Mariucci games
to do a live show at like Zamboni's or something with a bunch of
dude. Yeah, I mean we've actually talked to them. They're just like, we're down. We expected it to be a lot more busy and other things happening. So we might honestly do something with them that could be announced honestly in like a couple weeks, because we've had some of those conversations. But no, Simon, you hit the nail on the head. When the World Juniors came to Vancouver and Victoria, I went to a game in Vancouver. It was Canada versus Czech. It was just a bad game for the Czechs. They took way too many penalties. Canada destroyed them. Fun experience, but like going to a sold out crowd, Kazakhstan versus the States, or like Czech versus Swiss in the smaller barn, even if it's not the home team, it was just sold out anyways. And it was just such a vibe, because that's the one where they played at in Victoria. It's like 5,000 where the WHL team plays. And it was insane. Like, and again, no home team was there. Like there was no Canadians. Like it was crazy. It was absolutely insane.
Is Isn't that where Canada's pool plays a lot of their games to start, or am I imagining that?
Where?
At Mariucci.
Don't they might be doing the round robin games there. I'm not sure, but I think Canada is
I would assume they want them at the X, but
yeah, Canada's at the X.
But yeah, that'll be good. So we'll have, I'm sure, lots of coverage across.
Oh, is it actually?
That. Yeah. Okay, that's what I did.
Okay,
I
that's
imagining it.
Okay, so I swear. Okay, I'm like 98% sure. Now Simon will probably fact check me on this. Be like, nah, you're off. But I'm like 98% sure when it originally came out. I shouldn't even say originally. 6 months ago, when I looked at it, it was the reverse. But maybe because they're not, Canadians aren't traveling and they're not selling a lot of tickets. Maybe they're like, hey, whatever. We'll put the States in the bigger arena because that's what I originally thought it was going to be. But then I saw that Canada's pool was going to play there. And I was like, hey, it makes sense. They can upcharge the tickets and there's a lot of travel, Canadians that'll travel. But
I didn't even realize starting next week they have pre-tournament games in Mankato, Bemidji.
Yeah, that's cool too. Yeah, they're playing the pre-tournament games all around. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Super cool. Yeah, and then it doesn't have matchups on here, but yeah. So, there we go.
Dude, I'm so excited. Again, as the resident Canadian here in Canada, it's like more important than Christmas. Like the tournament is so crazy that like even the casual hockey fans who you're Canadian, you like hockey. If it's on, you throw it on. Like everybody's watching World Juniors like it's the Olympics. It was weird when I first moved to the States and I was like, oh, like nobody cares or can watch it here. It's insane because it is like on every radio station. It is on, TSN is blasting on all their channels up north.
I think that's the biggest issue in the U.S. with it is that we don't get
accessibility. Yeah,
I think it's only on NHL Network for them,
which is crazy.
Which to begin with is not in a lot of cable packages. Like I think I've onhockey.tv'd it the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I have no idea how to get NHL Network like outside of a cable package.
Yeah, because I think even CBC. I don't know if CBC does all. So up in Canada, I don't know if they do all like because TSN has the rights. They might do just like the medal games. But their radio has the rights to it. So like you're listening to it at the very least. Which I imagine maybe like actually the ESPN probably doesn't give a shit about it, so maybe not. But
I think too the big issue is you have college football bowl season.
A
lot of times right around that time. With NFL you get like fantasy football championships are usually right around that time too, so football takes priority. But I think like at least growing up, like I was always excited as a high school hockey player to watch it because a lot of times those are guys that maybe like, especially for Minnesota at one time, like, you maybe watch the guy play, or maybe like there's a couple times there's guys I played against at one point in time that were in it. So like there was some incentive from that perspective. But again, like I was lucky growing up, we had NHL Network as part of our package. So I watched a lot of it over Christmas break, but a lot of times I was inviting friends over because they didn't have it. So I think if they could find a way in the U.S. to make it more watchable, like whether it's ESPN or NBC or whoever the frick picks it up, like I think that'd be great. But I think until then, I think it'll definitely continue to dominate in the Canadian sports market. But like same thing with the rivalries here is like really cool thing going on. That game's going on right now, NHL Network. So, but hey, appreciate the like.
Hey, what's up, Hockey from Home? What's up, Sean? The gold medal game for the Olympics is at 7 a.m. our time. The Olympics are bad at scheduling things. Yeah, that's a good segue just to jump into the first segment of the show. But like, it doesn't seem like
in the dock here.
Give a flying fuck about ice hockey. What's up, Schmitty?
Yeah, so we've been kind of covering this the last couple of weeks, just the ice for the Olympics. Like a lot of questions about it. We talked about a couple weeks ago how there was some concerns about the size, the readiness. The latest update is that the IHF anticipates the rink to be completed by February 2nd, which is 3 days before the women start playing games and 9 days before the men start playing games. So better hope it's good. From what I've read, the concern is still around the ice quality. And like, I think it's just the ice holding up and stuff like that. Not so much the length, the players and players union, at least outwardly worried about it, despite it being reported.
They said we're going to go regardless. It's Olympics. Even like Brady and Matthew Kachuk actually have a podcast now, and their last episode was literally titled "We Don't Care, We're Fucking Going." So
yeah,
So I think the players are like, yeah, barring the players union and NHL not allowing them to go due to like the ice being just dangerous to play on, the size doesn't matter for them.
And I think ultimately it's 3 feet shorter, which you're probably looking at 1.5 feet behind the net. So maybe a little bit of room or wherever. I don't know where they'll build it in, if it's neutral zone, end boards, but like there'll probably be a slight adjustment period. But I think, yeah, to your point,
the North Americans are going to slay is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Or just like the NHL player. Oh, there's a lot of NHL players, but you know what I mean? Like
Sweden, Norway,
Sweden,
Sweden, Finland, Canada, US, and
maybe the Czechs, but yeah.
Because I think the Czech blue line, I think Russo was talking about this, I think has 2 NHL blue liners. It's Ronik and Gudas, and then it'll probably be
Gudas is gonna get tossed out in the first game with this with this size ice, dude.
Yeah. And then I think
God.
As we talked last week, Spacek and Juracek probably on that Czech blue line. But yeah, so it should be really fun as long as everything goes well. I'd imagine if we get a little bit closer and there's still concerns about the ice, like it wouldn't shock me if they maybe like, I think I heard someone kick out there like, could they go play in like Switzerland or like another nearby country? But
it's too late for that now.
Yeah, but who knows? But I'd have a hard time believing they just wouldn't want hockey to be played. But who knows? It'd be the most NHL thing ever to finally get the players back, and then the IIHF is incompetent and doesn't have a nice sheet ready for them. But
I mean, the IIHF is
we'll see.
Incompetent, but you know they're trying. They're trying. I think it is still operational. They've used it for events and things like that. I don't know if it's used for like professional hockey or not, but it says it's still open.
Yeah, I think the issue there would be the rink size. If it's like if it's the old like Olympic sheet, you can't.
Which it should be, but
right.
Yeah.
But then you can't have one pool playing on.
I know.
Almost NHL size rink and one on. So it's a mess. The Italians aren't big into hockey.
Well, and it might not be maintained to play, you know,
that many games. Yeah.
That many games. Yeah. Everything like that. So
exactly. So
absolutely insane.
Yeah. So we'll continue to monitor that, keep you updated. But
what's your like confidence meter? I talked to Hoppy and he's like, it's gonna happen. Like, nobody in like the know is worried. And I was like, oh, okay. They're just like, they're pushing it because, hey, why not push it if you're the media, right?
Yeah. I would say like I'm confident they're gonna play. I think I do worry a little bit as
God forbid they play the Olympics on an Olympic sheet, right?
Seems obvious. I think for me, I'm just more worried, I think, to the point we're just talking about like how it holds up as you get deeper into the tournaments. Like between the men and the women playing there, it's a lot of hockey. Like for anyone that
and aren't the ice are the ice skaters doing it at a different rink too? Like,
oh yeah, that's a good point. I'm not sure.
Yeah, like skating? Dude, like there's figure skating. That's what I meant. Figure skating. They'll have another sheet for the
speed skating.
The speed skating. But yeah, aren't the figure skate like you're telling me like the NHL players need good ice, don't get me wrong, but like the figure skaters need some fucking good ice too. So like
and for those that have like grown up playing hockey, like if you ever played in, tournaments where they got multiple levels and stuff, or like even I remember growing up, like when you practice after high school games and stuff after JV and varsity, like that ice gets chewed up. Like, there will be like, someone took a power turn and there's just a huge chunk out of the ice that needs probably like 6 floods to get it back to normal and stuff. So that's more, I think, where my injury lies. I think that's where the NHL, like when they talk about ice quality, I think that's not what they're referring to. Like, I don't think they're necessarily worried about like the ice cracking, like you're on a lake and just chunk coming out.
Yeah. It's just
how
maintenance.
quickly it's able to recover and maintain throughout the duration of the tournament. So that'll be interesting. Like, wouldn't, I think like maybe you're looking at, yeah, no kidding.
You know what though, Evan Simon, he's commenting, finishing the stadium 3 days before the women's game, like their first game. Italy decided to procrastinate worse than I did in college. Every Olympics, I feel like something's not built till like 3 days before opening ceremony, or you know what I mean? I feel like every Olympics there's some structure. Like I remember in Sochi, half the village wasn't done. I remember in Whistler, like there's always something, right? There's always, it just sucks that this time it's the fucking rink. This is the Winter Olympics. Yeah, we love the freaking bobsledding. We love the 2-man luge. But by the way, my dad, being the Iranian, the first time he saw a 2-man luge, the belly laugh that came out of that man was priceless. But this is the Winter Olympics. It's figure skating and hockey are like the first 2 things everyone thinks of. Besides like the snowboarding and fun stuff, but that's still
we already-
relatively new.
Like the thing that's baffling to me is we already know that the 2034 Winter Olympics are in Utah.
Yeah.
So
Their
they've
ice is going to
known-
be fine, by the way.
so-
Their ice
so
is going to
they-
be fine.
They've known for like 10 years probably that they're going to be hosting this event. They're like, we're going to have it done 3 days before the tournament. Like, that's insane to me. Like, how
Dude.
do you, I don't know. So,
It's probably money, sponsorship money to come in to build this, and then
right. So who
people
knows?
not
But,
paying till the end. I mean,
yeah,
it's a business at the end of the day, but yeah, it's crazy.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that was insane, Sean. Chilling. Like half of us watched that on TV live, and the broadcast was just as shocked as we were.
Yeah, which stinks. That was like, that's one of my favorite things to watch during the Winter Olympics, like hockey, curling, and then like luge, bobsled, skeleton, like all that.
Dude,
Like,
skeleton, yeah, it is like one of the craziest sports ever. Like like people say you have to be weird to, be a fighter or a goalie. Like, how crazy do you have to be to do that? Especially when the risk is what we saw in Whistler, right? Instant death if something goes wrong, which is with those speeds that you're going at. By the way, did you see the Jamaican team literally qualified? Like, we have cool run-ins happening.
Yeah, no, that's dope.
That is unbelievable.
But you wonder, like, stories like that, like, probably in, like, we talked about, I think, like, when these small nations make impacts in whether it's Olympics, World Juniors, like, how that it can inspire the next generation. Like, to me, that's no different there. Like, hey, kids maybe probably grew up watching, heard about the cool running story. Like, hey, like, that could be us.
Dude, I swear, during, like, once it starts heating up and we get closer, whatever streaming platform has it is going to start getting mad views for cool runnings. Everyone's going to start watching.
It's usually NBC, I think, and all their affiliates.
Oh, okay, yeah.
At least US wise. So it'd be like NBC, USA, TBS, Peacock. I'm sure the streaming service will have a bunch of the obscure ones too. I'm trying to remember back to where the Summer Olympics were. But yeah, so it should be super cool. I love the Winter Olympics personally. I like
France, I think.
Yep. Yeah, the French Alps, I think, is what. French Alps 2030. So I don't know if that's a city, if that's a specific place in the mountains. I don't know. I don't know my French geography, but yeah, that'll be sweet backdrop probably for a lot of the skiing events and stuff. And then as far as one more like not hockey related, but saw this from Chris Long, I believe, who does reporting for Channel 545 during the state tournaments and stuff. Mentioned, I believe, 2 Minnesota curling teams are like basically in do or die qualifiers. I think tomorrow night.
Oh, nice.
On the men's side and one on the women's side. So I think there's like a winner go home situation for I think a women's team, and then a men's need like a win or someone else loses type of thing to get in. So always
does ESPN at least show curling here in the States?
Oh yeah, I think we've seen curling quite a bit. So
okay. There's a friend of mine in Vancouver. He didn't play this. Of course, this is the year he took off, but he has a day job, but it's part-time because he's on the international men's curling team. He usually represents BC, and then he's gone to nationals a couple times. But yeah, he has been dialed into the Canadian team this year. That's another one too. Curling is always fun, and it's weird because it's like I always throw jabs at baseball and how boring it is, and I watch fights, whatever. But
curling is electric.
Call me just pure-blooded Canadian. There's just something about curling that like even my dad from the friggin' deserts of Iran, like one of his favorite sports is curling, and he watches the provincial Scotties tournaments, and like it's hilarious.
Yeah, I think like for me, it's like I really want to try it at some point. Like we almost went, I think, with my work for like a train when we had some of our sales reps in towns and stuff. But like
we've done Christmas parties there back home.
Yeah, the club we were gonna go to, I think, was like basically booked out like the time they were here, so we didn't book it in time. But yeah, definitely something I want to try at some point. But I think it's just like you can just tell it's not a sport that you really have to understand to know like what a good shot looks like. You can just tell that guy like really curled it in there, like cleared these ones out.
It's kind of like so intense. It's
very relaxing.
Intense.
It's like relaxing in a way too. It's like therapeutic to watch. Like just they're so smooth and stuff. So
hey, left.
Minus that part for sure.
I love it.
All right. Moving on from Winter Olympics. Really excited to we'll be covering. We'll probably still be doing some shows. I think if memory serves, like the during the Four Nations we had natural stat chart data and stuff. So If I can get confirmation of some kind that data will be available on Natural Stat Trick, I might try to do like it'd be a lot of work, but I can maybe do some like wild player specific player cards and stuff from that. We'll see if it works.
Well, there's gonna be a lot of them, so
I know that's the thing. It'll be like I have to have a bunch of like the way I have it set up. I have a bunch of different spreadsheets and stuff like
just
that.
do the
But,
ones that like are fun storylines, like if Spotcheck rips it up or something like that.
yeah, we'll see. But maybe we'll cover it in some aspect. If anything, just the analytics agenda, talking about what the numbers look like and stuff. But a couple more hockey headlines to get to. A couple injuries. First one, Berkeley Catton, Seattle rookie. I think another player that might have been potentially World Juniors eligible. I could be wrong in that. He's out week to week with an upper body injury. And then the pride of the Minnesota Gophers, Logan Cooley of the Utah Mammoth, out indefinitely with a leg injury.
Dude, it sucks.
If you're queasy and you're watching live, we're gonna show the clip. Not safe for work. Like if you don't want to look away now, I'll tell you when you can look again.
Ooh.
Yeah, just like leg looked like a rubber band hit the post. Not great. So,
Oh man, like leg and knee injuries they're the worst.
yeah, and I think he'd already missed time earlier this year, I think, with a leg injury. So just a tough break for him. Obviously, just signed, I think, a pretty big extension. I want to say it was near like the end of October. So
And he's been, he's been great this year.
yeah, like obviously got off to a great start. So wishing him a speedy recovery. Like not to say he was ever in at least this year's consideration for the Olympic team, but was having a year where can maybe get on the radar for future ones.
Yeah. By the way, I I was reading the outline and Brett was like, "Not safe for work." I'm gonna raise Brett with the not safe for work one. I'm a big MMA guy. This last weekend, the flyweight champion, Alejandro Pantoja, 30 seconds into the fight, Brett. So it wasn't even really a fight. Threw a high kick. The guy grabbed it and just pushed him. And so he fell backwards and just like you break a fall every single time. But this time was just bad luck. And his elbow went through the other side of his freaking arm and ended up losing the fight in like fluke fashion. So again, not safe for work, but I had to raise Brett. Oh, God damn. Dude. And ESPN did that to us, by the way. They like showed it like 5 times in slow motion. I'm like, what are you doing? So yeah, not a good in all sports, not a good weekend for injuries.
Yeah. It's always interesting to me. Like sometimes like you'll watch a broadcast, there'll be a bad injury, and the announcer will be like, "No, we're not gonna like. It's gruesome. We're not gonna show it again." Another one's like, "Let's roll that back in slow motion." Like,
yeah,
I vividly remember like fantasy football tangent for a minute. I had drafted a lot of Cam Scadaboo, played for the New York Giants, their running back, and I was like watching I was like listening to Red Zone. I had like the audio playing in my car, so I didn't actually see it happen. But all of a sudden, the guy who runs the show was like, "Oh, and Cam Scadaboo just had a gruesome injury. We'll roll that clip here in a second." I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, there's certain things in MMA that usually don't show a lot, like broken legs. They don't show, and I understand it. I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
But for some reason, and maybe it's because like the UFC's leaving ESPN, right? They're going to Paramount starting like January 1st. Actually, their last show, the ESPN's this weekend. So maybe ESPN is just like, we don't give a fuck anymore. We're just like our production, like whatever. We're just gonna click repeat until the next commercial, and maybe they just kind of checked out. But yeah, it was every camera angle over and over again, and even the commentator was like, okay, like
that's enough. Yeah.
You've seen it enough.
Yeah. So wishing a speedy recovery to Logan Cooley. Like always with those guys, you never want to see the best players in the league hurt, but especially when they have those ties to Minnesota, cuts a little bit deeper. I did want to do a quick shout. We got Milk's Teeth in the chat. Follows both accounts on Twitter. Jumps into the live chat pretty much every week. So appreciate you supporting the show. Same with obviously Sean, Schmitty, Simon, all those folks definitely in here every week. We notice you. Appreciate you tuning in. Craig Smith has announced his retirement from hockey. So Wild saw a lot of him in his days with the Nashville Predators. So, always interesting to hear what guys are up to after they retired from hockey. It was funny. I was out, speaking of what guys are after hockey, I was out on Black Friday shopping at the Eden Prairie Mall at the Shields, and we were like looking at Mankato stuff, and this like other couple like saw us kind of looking at it, and the guy at Mankato's like, "Oh, you guys like Mavericks too?" And we're like talking to these people and blah blah blah. Like, yeah, like our nephew used to play in the NHL, he played for the Winnipeg Jets, also played for the Gophers, and they like kind of like tiptoeing around who it was. Like, yeah, like you may have heard him. His name's like Blake Wheeler. Like, yeah, we know.
Yeah, we knew. Yeah, not a big deal.
And it's like, yeah, he's like a coach now for the Rangers. It's just like, yep, definitely heard of that guy. But yeah, just funny to like. So
that's awesome.
In the off chance that Blake Wheeler's aunt and uncle are listening to the pod, shout out for meeting you guys at Shields. Let's see what else we got here. Tampa Bay. This one was a little like not shocking, but Ryan McDonough, another pride of Minnesota, 3 by $4.1 million extension. I believe he was in Nashville last year. Things didn't work out. Went back to Tampa Bay, I think at the deadline, if memory serves correctly, and has been absolutely rock solid for them so far this season. They've had a lot of injuries to their blue line. I think he stepped up in a pretty big way for them, along with J.J. Moser, I think is the other defenseman that stepped up quite a bit for them. So a well-earned extension for McDonough, which, how old is he now? He's one of those guys that feels like he's been playing for
He's been playing for a while. I think he's like 30. My guess is 34.
It feels like it's old now. I think he's like 37. Google says 36.
Okay.
So,
I've always been a fan and quietly always been like a top defenseman throughout his career.
Yeah. Always very good. 89 birthday, St. Paul, Minnesota. Unfortunately decided to choose that stupid Wisconsin school. But did play at Cretin-Durham Hall, so private school in Wisconsin. Obviously a long career at the Rangers, some cups with Tampa Bay. Yeah, 2 years in Nashville. And then rejoined Tampa last year. 6 points in 15 games so far for him this year. So, and has worn a letter, looks like every year except for the year he was traded to Tampa Bay and then his first year in Tampa Bay. So going back to 2014.
So just always a leader, pretty much, everywhere he's gone.
Yeah, so big shouts to him on that extension. And then this one I stumbled across today. I guess it's been going on for about a week now. Philip Deneau, center for the LA Kings, reportedly on the trade market. Kind of a weird thing for him. Like historically, like a very good kind of like Selke caliber, like two-way defenseman. I think just off to like a dreadfully slow offensive start this year. But like one of those players who like bad luck might be kind of factoring into that. Numbers under the hood look good. Not a player I would expect the Wild to be in on. I think they have enough of that type.
They want someone who can score.
Yeah, which we will get to later on in the show. But that's pretty much like all that's notably happened in the last week. There was, I think, Bobby McCann of the Maple Leafs was suspended one game for like a high sticking penalty. But yeah, like a pretty like I think last week was pretty jam packed coming out of the Thanksgiving break, but pretty quiet week across the league this week outside of the Olympic news. So that'll take us into the analytics agenda, where I get to toot the Nico Sturm horn for my guy as the number one Nico Sturm truther. So we are now 8 games. So since he returned from his injury, wanted to take a look. Obviously, small sample. We, if we look back to the Wild at the beginning of the year, we can understand. Like, you look at Spurgeon, some of those guys. Like small samples, got to take them with a grain of salt. But I think the early results returns of Nico Sturm are pretty much exactly what you're hoping for when you signed him. So you're looking at his ice time. This one was a little bit shocking to me, just given that the injuries that they've had. Like, I feel like he's had games where he started on the third line, but only averaging about 11 and a half minutes per game. That's 16th on the team in that span. So of 16th out of 18 skaters is pretty low. But you look at what he's done in those limited minutes. He's got 1 goal that's .66 per 60 minutes. That's 5th highest rate in the team. Assists 1.32. Points per 60. I forgot to update that one on the graphic, realizing that now that would actually come out to whatever that is, 1.98, I think. So, but shooting, he's putting up about 2 shots on goal per 65th on the team. Individual expected goals, 1.12 per 60, 3rd on the team. High danger chances, 3rd on the team in that span. Throwing his weight on a little bit with 12 hits. We talked a lot in the offseason about how his faceoffs would be an improvement to this team since he's come in. Leads the Wild in face-off win percentage at 51.43. He's 136. That's second only behind Eck, who I think has taken like double the amount of draws as Sturm, and then he's the next closest, which is crazy. But the great numbers here are the on-ice results. You got a 3.47 expected goals for per 60 with him out there. That's first on the team. His expected goals against per 60 at 5-on-5, 2.66, 6th best on the team. his 56.6% expected goal share since making his debut this year is first on the team. So you'd love to see that, like being able to kind of prop up that bottom six who early in the season was getting really caved in on. But being able to take some of that pressure off, like I think you even saw a little bit when they were a little more healthier. We saw Nico Sturm's line when it was, whether it was Trenyan and Foligno or whoever's on his wings, like it was becoming like a mini matchup line, or at least a line they felt comfortable getting out there. And when you look at the results that he's delivered, it's not really a wonder. And then even strength goals for and against, he's a +1, 4 goals for with him on the ice, 3 against. And the numbers suggest that goals against maybe be a hair down from where it is. Also been great in the PK, almost 12 minutes, so basically 6 penalties that he's been on the ice for, essentially, if you want to look at it that way. And no goals against yet with him out there on the penalty kill. So, to be fair, the Wild have only allowed 1 since he came into the lineup, but I think you look at just, adding that second layer, this penalty kills we talked last week has just come a really long way and really, really improved. I think have killed about 90% going back to November. So really, really good stuff. But I think like you talk about what you want in a bottom 6 forward, like a guy that can chip in a little bit offensively. If it's a center, it's a guy that can win draws, play well in the PK, throw his weight around. Like he is the like 4th line center, like perfect fit.
Dude, he reminds me of Jay Beagle.
Yeah, and
and Jay Beagle is an ECHL champion, an AHL champion, and a Stanley Cup champion. Yeah, he's just been that like steady. When he was playing, he was a 4th liner. He was nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. And you need those steady guys.
Yeah, and this is a guy that's been on a couple championship teams in the past couple years, and you look at what he can do, and that shouldn't come as a shock. Like he had I think we talked about when they announced the signing, I think I talked about this a little bit in the offseason, but like post-cup free agency, he went on local radio with Russo on KFan and just basically talked about like how he has embraced his role as like, kind of a 4th line, bottom 6 type center, like wants to get really good at everything that role entails. So that's penalty kill, hitting, blocking shots. It's been pretty well documented that he kind of like studies the art of the face-off. Like he'll watch tape on like guys' tendencies, learn what they do. Like he tries to figure out how to beat them.
Dude, Manny was like that too, it was just fun to watch him take draws. And then you'd even just go back to the bench, but he'd be used like top line, take the draw, back to the bench because he was just so good at them.
Yeah, and I wish I would have pulled it up, but I don't have his deployment. But I think he's been pretty trusted on D-zone faceoffs. I think we've even seen like a couple times, like late in a period, they'll get him out there for an offensive zone faceoff if it's on a strong side to try to get a puck back to a Faber or a Buium with, maybe Bully or Kaprizov out there. So, but really nice to see what he can bring. Like my one complaint, I guess, as you look at kind of in the same stretch, Ryan Hartman's been getting about 5 minutes more of ice time per game and has done pretty much nothing with it. And at some point I do wonder, like, hey, do you maybe give Nico Sturm, maybe not all of those shifts, but maybe do you kind of meet in the middle? I think Hartman's averaging like 16.5 minutes a game, Sturm 11.5. Like, maybe you pull those a little bit, meet more in the middle, like 14 minutes each, getting Nico out there a little bit more. Because the results say, like, he's been like playing more like a top 6 forward when you look at all the stats. Not saying that he is that, but I just think, especially now the team battling some injuries, can't hurt to get him out there a little bit more. So really good early returns on Nico Sturm coming out of the injury. Like, there's always some wonder too. And I think someone had brought up a good point on X when I tweeted this out this morning. I want to give them the credit here. Ashley at Busy with Hockey, wondering if maybe the ice time's down, just like maybe kind of like a ramp up period as he comes back from injury, which certainly possible. So maybe something to watch here is maybe he continues to get healthier if that ice time starts to climb up a little bit more. And
maybe the Wild are shopping Hartman and are like, yo, please start getting some points because we're giving you more ice time than we want to.
Well, and they tried. I mean, with Rossi and Urov out, they gave him a look on the top line with Kaprizov, Zuccarello. Didn't do much with it. And then we saw, I think they gave that a run for like 2 games. And I think the game after was demoted down to the 4th line had a better showing there. But yeah, I think, this was a guy that was, Hartman, really good for them in the playoffs against Vegas. I think he was third on the team. I think he was third on the team behind Kaprizov and Boldy. I think for sure maybe in goals, maybe in points as well in the Vegas playoff series. Like, and a guy that's historically elevated during the playoffs. But I feel like you really like. I think this is maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing, but like you haven't really seen as much of the antics from him. Like hasn't taken a lot of like stupid penalties. Had a game a couple nights ago, I think, with 2 penalties, but it was like a high stick and a trip. Like it wasn't his typical like roughing, elbowing, boarding. Like, so I think maybe like, and I know like I'm not saying that he should play dirty, but I think maybe just trying to add that edge back. Like it seems like a lot of times he knew kind of where that line was, got really close to it, but never crossed it. You know, I shouldn't say never, but did his best to not cross it. Sometimes the fuse would break, against the Blues with Binnington, whatever it is, but. Yeah. So
or now
we'll
every
see.
time they play Seattle.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a nice transition into our Pucky Opinion segment because it kind of relates to Ryan Hartman. Is not the only one that's struggling to get his offense going. So I don't know if we have.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned Trenyon as well. I've been super impressed with him the last few games. Like starting to capitalize a little bit, and not even just like with just goals necessarily, but at least setting up an opportunity or allow at least a pass or two, a small cycle. Because he's been bombing into the zone even when the Wild weren't playing well. Like he's doing his job, but it's nice to see that there's like a little bit of extra now, which is the player that they wanted and thought they were getting. So yeah, I've been really liking his play this year and as of late as well. And I will say, Sean, by the way, just quickly to Sean's point, I mean, Riley and Hunter, they're going to pop. They're going to pop, okay? It's like their first year pro.
Yeah, so let me just look. I mean, yeah, like you look at like Trenyon's on-ice results. Like if you go back to November 23rd at Winnipeg, he has 3 games with an expected goal share above 50%, but in those games, 63%, 73%, 53% against Vancouver. Has been on the ice for looks like 6 goals for. A little bit of a dud, weird one in Vancouver. Had a good expected goal share, 3 goals against. I don't think a lot of those were his fault. His numbers in Seattle, like on paper, didn't look good, but I feel like that was definitely one of those cases where I feel like the numbers maybe didn't match the eye test for him. I thought he had a very noticeable game in Seattle. Thought he helped set up some pretty good chances for them. Like I agree completely. I think he's been like is he at that $4 million player level yet? Debatable, but I think if you compare, I mean, this bar was arguably on the floor, but if you compare to kind of what we saw from Trenyon for much of last year, I think you have to be a lot more excited about kind of what you've seen over the last couple weeks. Like in that same stretch going back to the 23rd of November, he's got 4 points in, I think 8 games. So half point per game is a lot, that's $4 million a year worthy. Yet on top of that, his hits and stuff, like going back to the 21st of November, 8, 8, 1, 6, 7, 5, 5, 4, 9. Like really out there throwing his weight around. I believe he still leads the league in hits, or he's right up there. It's usually him and Sherwood are kind of like neck and neck. So let's see if I believe he's still leading, but I want to give accurate info here.
Schmitty's asking, how do they fix the scoring issue? Only 13 games where we've scored more than 2 goals in regulation. That's not going to work. It's true. It's because the only 2 who are scoring are Boldy and Kaprizov.
Yeah. So Trenyon is the leader in hits, 144. Sherwood in second, 134. And then there's a 3-way tie for third with 3 guys at 109. So almost 30 hits more than the third place hitter. So out there playing physical, to your point. Yeah, I've been playing great. But yeah, like to your point, Boldy and Kaprizov. So I tweeted this out today. Over the last 8 games, Kaprizov has 6 goals. Boldy has 4. Brock Faber has 2. The rest of the team has 4. It's 8. So
it's like at this point, like when Rossi's healthy, that's going to help because like he will and can score. Mm-hmm. But okay, so then you have 3 guys, right? And it's you can't bank on Johansson going on a run again. You can't really bank on anybody else right now. So it's like, is the only possibility to bring someone in who you think can provide that, and that's what they're trying to do right now.
Yeah, and I think Guerin notices it. I mean, this isn't just a last 8 games thing either. Look over the course of the season, Kaprizov and Boldy, I think 18 and 16 goals respectively. So a combined, I think my math is correct, 34. The rest of the roster has 35. Like the Kaprizov and Boldy quite literally have scored 49% of the team's goals this year. One of them has scored. I think I looked at this today in every game except for 5. But there is a pretty strong correlation to when one or both of those guys doesn't score, there's a higher chance they lose those games. I think it was like, I think with Kaprizov not scoring, they were like, I think it was like 5, 5, and 4 or something in those games. Boldy, I think, was like, they've been better as of late, but he was like 6, 6, and 2 or something, I think. With neither of them scoring, I think they were like 2, 3, and 2 or something. So, yeah, I think to your point, like, it sounds like the Wild have thrown some offers out there, including, according to Russo, the Wild allegedly made an offer for Sherwood recently. His exact quote, I think, was involving a young player who he's speculating might have been Ogren. Couldn't confirm that or anything, but we talked about, I think on last week's show, or either that or 2 weeks ago, that Sherwood wasn't really a needle mover for us. I think he's now like goalless in 9 straight. So to be fair, he would have fit right in a middle sixer who goes on streaky scoring streaks and hits a lot of guys. I mean, that sounds like a lot of what they have currently. So, but I think it's just tough right now. I think with the cap going up, a lot more teams are less inclined to move guys. I think you look at how, I think we've talked about this, how tight the Eastern Conference is. Like, I'm sure there's teams all over the East looking to add, and the teams that are bad, they're bad because they don't have a lot of good players. So it's a tough situation to be in if you're Bill Guerin, because obviously you have some young players, you have some picks, but do you blow those now and miss out on a bigger fish at the deadline? So it's a tough situation to be in. Like, obviously, like it's easy to sit here and say Bill Guerin should go make a trade, but my question is always, well, for who? Like who's available? Who are you giving up? Like, I think at this point, I would imagine they're probably looking more at wing than they are at center, because I think, when healthy, knock on wood, you have technically 5 centers now with Rossi, Yurov, Eriksson, Hartman, and Sturm. So I don't see them adding another center unless one, we talked about maybe a Hartman move. He could maybe go to the wing as well, but
Rossi comes back, you're fine, like at center.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and to your point, like, I think his injury, like you said, isn't helping. He was at 13 points in 17 games when he went out.
He would have probably 10 goals right now. Let's be honest. He'd probably have 10 goals right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not a slight against Yurov. We talked last week about how he's filled in nicely, but I don't think he's, he showed he's serviceable in a top 6 role. Is that his role right now? I think it's more of probably a third line scoring winger. Or he was great with Foligno and Trennian when they were kind of healthy and had 4 lines rolling. Like, they were a big piece of success in there too. But yeah, they're going to keep looking. I think as this problem, I think, has kind of magnified itself, I think, over the past couple of weeks. Like, I'm sure Guerin's working the phones and stuff the best he can, but at the same time, you don't want to overpay either necessarily. But yeah, so we'll see. It's probably a weekly topic. Like, who can the Wild go out and get? It sounds like they maybe had made some offers on Kyrou, but just a lot of packages that St. Louis wasn't interested in. So, it's not from a lack of trying that the Wild haven't added anybody yet.
Oh, yeah. Like, dude, I swear, any player in the NHL who starts to get hot, like, Billy Guerin's calling, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you saw this one guy get hot. Just on our side. Like, he's making the calls. He's making the calls. And like the chat saying, like you're saying, it's making trades in this league easier said than done. But at this point, it doesn't look like anybody else other than maybe Johansson gets hot again, throughout the season, and Rossi comes back. It doesn't seem like we're getting scoring anywhere else. So a change or some adjustment has to be made. Is it going to happen? We'll see. Will it work? We'll see. Right? Talking about this, if Tarasenko had 10 goals right now, right?
Right. I think, to his credit, I think he's looked better since coming back from injury. Again, as we talked about Trent and Lash, that bar was pretty much on the floor. But the reality is, he's looked better over the last couple games, but that hasn't translated to a ton. He got on the score sheet the other night with an empty net goal from, 106 in the net. That's not. He had some chances. I think there was it was a 1-1 game in the third the other night where he got a really good pass from Ryan Hartman in the back door, completely flubbed the pass. So I don't know. And it sounds like there's maybe some tiptoeing around his situation too, with Russo's reporting on his, I think is on the show with Joe and Hoppy this week. Just that, there's been it's a little bit headbutting between him and previous coaches about him not feeling like, he's been in the right positions in the lineup, but like they've given him those chances and he hasn't produced. So, maybe, like I said, the numbers at least under the hood are slightly better, but at some point, like I love the analytics and like I'm a big analytics guy, but at some point the results have to come, especially if you're a guy like Tarasenko. Like they didn't go acquire him for him to be a third line shutdown winger. Like his job was here to help the offense, and I think he's noticeable at times in the power play, but at 5-on-5 a lot of times like he's not really noticeable out there. So with Zuccarello potentially out, like we'll see, maybe opens up a spot for him to maybe play on the offside of Kaprizov. Maybe that gets him going. We'll see what happens there. That was a bit of news. Jake Middleton, I think, also sounds like he might miss a little bit of time. I'm assuming Zuccarello, based on the hit and the NFL,
concussion,
probably a concussion. So,
dude, the hit alone was bad. I mean, it wasn't an illegal hit, but it was a crushing hit, we'll say.
Yeah. And let's talk about those hits, because I think like
the head hit,
wise,
still, Brett, is what he went out, and then he came up and like was skating towards the corner, and the trainer's like, no, we got to go to the bench here, Zook. Like, so that was scary.
Yeah, it's just they're weird hits, because I think you look at, and I think it's a lot like the one that Tyler Pitlick put on Jalen Chatfield earlier this season in Carolina, where the head's kind of down, like the hit starts, like you didn't necessarily extend up in the head, but the player's kind of bent over. It's this huge gray area. Like, I think if there's a way you can make that, like, if you just want to say like any hit to the head, regardless of whether the defenseless player put himself in that position, is a major penalty. Like, but then do you have guys? I mean, not that guys are ever intentionally trying to get hit in the head, but do you, does that create an even more gray area? Do you see guys intentionally doing that? Do you see guys shying away from those open ice hits? But yeah, it's a tough situation. Like, watching the replay, I don't think they got the call wrong. Like, as much as it sucked to lose Zuccarello, but I mean, you could tell the Wild were pissed. Like, Danilo, you're off. Like, immediately, like, I'll fight this guy. I don't give a shit. Like, awesome. Like, Kirill Kaprizov was playing like a bat out of hell the rest of that game. Like, you could tell he was pissed off. Hartman tried to fight. I'm forgetting who hit him.
Dunn.
Yeah, Vince Dunn.
Dude, Yurov was the first one who went in, and I was like, atta boy. I mean, he took the penalty, but like, atta boy. Like, let's go.
Like, I think, as a coach, teammate, like, you're never going to be mad at when a guy takes a penalty for sticking up for his teammates. So, and as a fan, like, no one's sitting there going, way to go, Danilo. Now you put us, like, no one there was, like, yeah, he shouldn't have done that. So, lit a fire. So hopefully, like, he was knocked out. So I'd assume, you look at NFL concussions, other sports, like usually about a week as long as you're symptom free. So, by this time next week, we can hopefully expect to see Zuccarello back. They'll never tell us if it's a concussion. It'll say upper body, but that would be my assumption. Middleton, I never really saw what happened. But yeah, so let's see. The other thing I want to talk about, like, speaking of like lack of scoring, I think another thing that could help, get this offense going, if it's not just getting players beyond Kaprizov and Boley going, is getting the power play going. Like, beginning of the year, on fire, scored a bunch, just 5 goals now in the power play in the last month, which I believe is third fewest in the NHL in that span. Penalty kill has been great, but we're just not, like, I just want to see, is there anything you've seen from watching the games that looks different from the beginning of the year? Is it a slump? Like, is there anything you're visually seeing?
Dude, this might be just like elementary, but like, if they don't even if they can't set up anything, even their first opportunity or any cycle, they're instantly either the puck turning, or they're instantly either turning over the puck and the other team's coming at them shorthanded or 2-on-2, or it's like an insta dump. So like, teams, I feel like, are just beating them to setting up their play. Now, when they carry the puck into the zone, it seems a little bit better, but for some reason, they've just been not dumping it and chasing it, but just like sending it around the wall, hoping that the guys on the other side are banking on him being on the other side. And like I said, teams are just beating them to it. They're just shutting them down early. So like, obviously, once they set up, there's opportunities. And I thought in Calgary, like their first 2, I believe, like Dustin Wolf was out of his mind. Like, there were 3 elite, like, I'm talking any other goalie who wasn't as hot as him that night, those 3 goals were going in, or at least 2 of those 3 shots. I believe it was the first 2 power plays. So like, they looked good on the power play with no result. Like there were 4 or 5 shots, and then I just think Dustin Wolf got in their head and just that game just kind of fell apart. They haven't scored. Like once when they're setting up, like I like their plays. The shots, especially coming from Boldy and Kaprizov, or even from the blue line, Zeev has been able to actually find some sneaky lanes, has been fine. But for the most part, I would say, and I'd sum it up saying that like teams are just beating them to the puck if they're sending it around the net, or just reading their setup and taking them out too quickly.
Yeah, so like numbers for those wondering, they've had 74 minutes and 13 seconds of power play time going back to November 10th. That's the 7th most in the NHL. Their goals for, they have 5. That's tied for second fewest in that same amount of span. So 7th most penalty time on the penalty or power play. Second fewest amount of goals in that span. Expected goals, like not horrible. 9.45, I think, is what they're currently sitting at. That's like middle of the pack power play wise, but relative to their, you turn that relative into their time they spent on the ice, it drops down to like 7.44, which again is like bottom 10. So like numbers there, like back up where we're seeing like that something is missing. I think like for me, in terms of like what's missing is like I feel like they're missing some of that movement that they had early on, where it felt like 5 guys were constantly moving around the zone, where now it feels like it's kind of back to this static, like pass it here, pass it here, pass it here, up, shot off a shin pad, cleared down the ice, 3 entries to get back in the zone, 20 seconds left on the power play. Like where early in the season it was like all of a sudden Bullion was at the top, and then Bulliam's in the corner, Kaprizov's on the top. You got guys shooting through the middle of the ice. Like I don't know why that's gone away, and maybe it's like, and maybe it hasn't, but to me it just feel like I'm not seeing that like that like organized chaos they were creating that would really screw up opposing penalty kills. And maybe they've had a time to get a book on some of the plays the while they're running, but maybe it's been kind of the rotating door between Bullion, Faber,
Johansson's dried up. The power play's dried up.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a correlation, although I don't think.
Well, and that's like Tarasenko was on that unit, but not Zuccarello to start the year, and like that's obviously gonna happen again here. I think you look at like early in the year, the second unit was, had some goals as well. They've lost Marco Rossi, who was a big part of that unit. So
yeah, I think losing Rossi is a bigger hit than we're all like. I know they've been winning, but like and I think that's one of the things that we haven't really been noticing. It's like, they've been winning, so we kind of just whatever, not scoring on the power play. But like, yeah, Rossi was always a big part of that as well, even on the second unit sometimes.
Yeah, so I hopefully we'll see that improve. Until guys are healthy. Debatable to say the least.
When you don't have depth scoring, famous last words, when the team's healthy.
Right. So, yeah.
And super hot goalies make a lot of issues for sure. And like Dustin Wolf's numbers don't look good this year just because Calgary's been awful, but like, man, he's good. Like he is nasty.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think was he top 3 in Calder voting? I think for sure top 4. I can't remember if he hit the top 3, but was in the mix all of last year for the Calder as well. So yeah, Calgary's a weird team because like you look at their lineup, like you watch, like they dominated the Wild the other night. Like I don't think they're a 32nd, like at the time going into that game, they were the worst team in the NHL in terms of points percentage, everything, but they look like a better team than that to me. So, all right,
last segment.
I mean, we were kind of in it already with some of that stuff, but sure.
I just want to say, Puck, your opinion.
I just wanted to play the clip.
Yeah, I think I just saw Horror Docs in the chat. He dropped this in the X comments before the show, asking for hot takes, and he says the Wild should move Iowa out of Iowa into like a Mankato, Duluth type of area. I never got an answer for why. Like, I'm open to hearing if you have reasoning for it, but like the AHL is pretty intentional about playing usually in markets where there is an NHL team, and I would imagine in Minnesota's case they probably would want to keep them away from college teams as well. In terms of scheduling, fan turnout probably gets split between those two. You don't want that happening necessarily, but
they do have an ECHL team in Iowa though.
It's true. I think they play in Iowa City.
Yeah, it's not.
But yeah. So it's like you have a legitimate reason, I'd be open to hearing it. But I mean, I think like Iowa still needs major changes. I would not argue with you on that. Like we talked, I think a couple weeks ago that we thought maybe things were looking up a little bit when they signed Mayhew, traded for Olsen.
Well, I feel like they did, but then a lot of guys got called up, and it was like you're low.
Yeah,
but that's like the AHL for you. Look, Brett, put it this way. Here's a huge example, and this is like far on one side, right? The extreme, but like the Vancouver Canucks, or should I say the Abbotsford Canucks won the Calder Cup last year. They have 5 wins on this season because they've been playing with like 9 guys up in the NHL. So it's that's the AHL for you, right? It is the farm team. It is the feeder. It is we're going to pluck from you when we need, when we need guys. And the best NHL teams are the ones that remain healthy. And a lot of the best AHL teams, thrive from a healthy team above that's thriving or not.
And like, I don't necessarily like disagree with that sentiment. And like, if this was kind of a one-off thing for the Iowa Wild, like I'd be more in agreement there. But I think like it's been every year. Like at some point, like every team goes through injuries. Every team has to call players up. But for whatever reason, like we've seen good players like down there. Matt Boldy played a little bit in Iowa. Marco Rossi, Jesper Wallstedt, like Damon Hunt, like guys, Hunter Haight, guys we've seen, Liam Ogren in the Wild lineup. It's just there's just not enough there. Maybe Ben Jones's inability to score NHL level goals. Maybe he just, I don't know. But like it's at some point I think you need winning teams to help players kind of get that feeling. Have your offensive players have the opportunity to be more offensive. Like a Liam Ogren, like when he's down there, like if the team's not scoring, it's tough for a guy like that to build confidence. And to carry that whole team offensively when he is down there. So I don't know. Like it's disappointing again to see Iowa, still not maybe take that next step. Maybe it's a year of adjusting to the new coaching system, some of the new players, that type of thing. But at some point, you really got to hope that they can take a step forward.
Yeah, and like, look, if they moved them, would there be a spark and interest in the market and they'd sell more tickets for a little while? Yeah, but like, again, it's an AHL club. If it's not a hockey fierce market, if they're not winning, they're not going to come. Or if they're not exciting, they're not going to come, right? Like I've even seen it, and lucky for junior hockey in Canada, especially major junior, there's quick turnaround. It's like college. You got 2-3 years and then, your guys are going pro or they're going to a different league or whatever. But even like the years that it's down, like it's down, man. Like it blew my mind, and it's noticeable at a lower level when there's no one in a rink that's maybe too big for its own good in smaller towns, right? But as soon as they're winning again, they're there, and yeah, it might be a quick fix, but if like just the organization doesn't fix. And again, we're still trying to identify what these holes are. Something even major from a development or management, or even just from like maybe it goes as high as like the NHL club, and they're just not setting them up for developmental success enough. And they're just keeping it as like, oh, you're just straight the farm and it's the AHL. So these guys are playing pro hockey. They'll develop anyways, where it's like, no, there's a lot that goes into it. Right.
Mm-hmm. So. And I've brought up, like, I believe that the Wild have a player development problem. Like we talked about, like if you look at the majority of the players that have been called up and been successful on this team, Kaprizov pretty much, I've got all of his skill from the KHL. Marco Rossi, brief seasoning in the AHL, probably worked out okay for him. He's probably the exception, but Faber, everything was with the Gophers and in the LA Kings system. Boldy, like, really kind of started to blossom at Boston University, brief stint in the AHL, but I think that was just more of he got a preseason injury and just needed to work his way back up.
Murat, who's Nadinov, didn't need any time in Iowa.
But, like, again, KHL, like, Liam Ogren is, hasn't hit the next level. Hunter Haight, I think we've seen maybe a little bit of growth from him, but we still haven't seen the AHL success translate into NHL success yet. You look at what guys like, Spacek and Jiricek have done at the international level, and, seeing them come over and just like, for as dominant as Spacek is at international level, why can't he be like one of the best AHL defensemen, you would think? Like he should be like a fringe NHLer at that point, but it just doesn't seem. I don't. That's for my worries. It doesn't feel like these players are highly touted. They're highly drafted. Like people are so complimentary of the work that Judd Brackett does in getting these players here, but it seems like something happens from that arrival to their timeline where things.
Yeah, and that's not his job. His job is to identify talent and bring them in. It's the organization's job to develop them.
Exactly.
And again, it could just be personnel. Like, even if you don't win in the AHL, because we just brought it up, like it is like you're gonna have teams some years that are really good. You're gonna have prospects that click. You're gonna have just teams that are built well, and the team above, the NHL team, just doesn't need to call upon them a lot due to injuries or lack thereof. And you can actually build some chemistry and develop. And then there's other teams that don't necessarily win a lot, may be decimated, with guys being called up, but still have good developmental coaches, have good staff, have good facilities, have good buses. You know what I mean? Just all these little things that just like help, right? Like even if it's just like morale 5% because the facilities are good, your trainers are good, you're happy to play there. All these little things help as well in developing a young man, sometimes still teenager, like a 19, 20-year-old. Like,
well, I think like it's not an AHL example, but you look at like the dichotomy between the San Jose Sharks and the Chicago Blackhawks, like especially last year going into this year, like both teams, like exciting young players and Connor Bedard, Macklin Celebrini, and then like both teams pretty awful last year, but like the vibes in San Jose were great. Like guys are having fun. Like they always seem happy. Bedard's like looks like he dreads being in Chicago. Like, but again, like, is it because San Jose has found a better way to like, hey, we're going to lean on your strengths. We're going to coach this. Like, that's kind of my thing. Like you saw like what good development might potentially look like. What were the ingredients of that? I don't know.
Maybe expectations too. Like, hey, we're a young team. We know,
right.
The Wild are going to be calling up guys, but these are some of our like short-term goals and plans for either the player or just like a team in general. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's just been a lot of letdown where they're like, okay, this year will be different. This year will be different. And it's just like still shit. And then it just brings around like, I don't know, but it's unfortunate and they gotta address it soon.
Yeah. So are any changes going to come with that soon? I doubt it, but I think if you have another year of disappointment next year, like you really got to start to wonder what's going on down there.
Yeah. We'll fire through some of the comments here. He said, Hordox says, also them doing the Hockey Day Minnesota outdoor games seems like them testing the possibility of maybe moving to Minnesota on a more full-time role. There's so much hockey in Minnesota. There's like, I think that's one of the reasons why junior hockey's not here too, right?
Yeah. Well, I think Hockey Day in itself is such like a successful day. Like any way they can make that bigger and better. Like I think getting Iowa here is really cool. Like that's a really cool addition to it. But I'm not sure that it's a test from it.
Yeah, put it this way: when I moved here, I was shocked that I was like, wait, there's no NAL or USHL here anymore, and it's like, dude, nobody cares because it's college hockey.
Well, and high school, honestly. Like,
well, yeah, high school, college, and the Wild. It's like, and put it this way, this is why the WHL didn't end up working out in Winnipeg, was because they, funny enough, have university hockey up there, which is just really affordable for those who can afford to go to Moose games, which are not cheap for AHL, and or Winnipeg, which is one of the most expensive tickets in the NHL due to the limited capacity. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's just like, if there's oversaturated, like you can't support all of them, right?
Yeah, exactly. So,
but to kind of counter that, I don't think you need 16,000 for freaking AHL. Like you need 8 tops, or you know what I mean, to be successful. Maybe not tops, but you need 8 to 10 range. I think is realistic.
And I think like when they
freaking Winnipeg's rink is 16,000.
And I think they get pretty good turnouts there. Like if they were even like good, I think they'd get more. Because like I think as someone pointed out earlier, like I didn't know Iowa had anything besides basketball and football. Like they pretty much don't. It's like Des Moines a pretty big city. It's a cool city. Like it's pretty new and updated and stuff. But again, you're kind of in corn country. There's not a lot to do down there. So if you had a good pro hockey team, especially in the wintertime, their winters aren't too dissimilar from ours. Cold, snowy, like not a ton of. They have even less hills and trees and stuff to actually go do stuff and enjoy nature. If you want to go snowshoeing through the cornfield, I guess you can. But like if you had a good Iowa team, you'd think that would help draw some crowd just from there's not a lot else to do. symptoms. But
Yeah. Again, some of the small town like Canadians probably just like this feels like home, whatever. But yeah, no, you said it. You said it.
yeah, the Mason Shaws though were like, yeah, Iowa feels very close to home. But yeah,
Or yeah,
man,
guys from Saskatchewan are like, oh, this is actually a pretty big city.
yeah, I actually, my fiance's sister is dating a guy from Saskatchewan. I think that's like he would say that. Literally grew up on a farm.
Oh yeah. Dude, I mean, them to them like Regina and Saskatoon are like too big and scary.
Yeah. So
Well, it was like, you remember Jordan Tutu talking about, because he grew up in like the way north, like in the territories. But then when he went to Brandon, Manitoba, he was like, he said he was like anxious for like 2 weeks. He's like, I've never seen buildings this big and this many people before. Because I literally grew up like on reserve, playing reserve hockey.
Yeah. So, well, we ended up talking about a lot more than I thought we would, to be honest.
It's like a longer show with less on. I feel like that happens though when like there's a lot on the outlines. Like, hey, we got to get to it all. We got to be a little bit more tighter.
That's true.
But yeah,
some good tangents on the Winter Olympics to start.
Yeah.
4 games from now until we record next week again on Wednesday. A much tougher stretch. Wild just went through a stretch of playing some pretty bad teams.
What do you mean Calgary, Vancouver aren't?
Calgary, Vancouver, Seattle, like all on the weaker end of opponents. Edmonton, like good team, but has struggled a lot this year. But gonna be a little bit of a tougher stretch here. All home, so back into the Xcel Energy Center crowd where they played really well throughout November. But Dallas in the building tomorrow. 8-0-2 in their last 10 to the second best team in the NHL behind the Avalanche. Wild, I thought in their first meeting outplayed Dallas. Ultimately lost that game. I think it was 4 or 5-2, but I think like overall you look at the numbers in that one, a lot better. But that's going to be a tough one. They just got Thomas Harley back on their blue line, as we did mention last week. Have lost Tyler Sagan the rest of the season to an ACL injury, but obviously Jake Ottinger certainly seems to have success, especially on home ice. I think on the Wild's home ice, in his home state. So that'll be a tough one tomorrow, but I think a good chance to show like that this last month wasn't a total fluke, and that they are like, I think I was reading today on the, I think it was on the Athletic, or maybe it was another podcast that did like a transcript basically saying like the Wild are third in the Central, but they're kind of in a tier of their own. Like they're not on the same level as Colorado and Dallas. But I think if you prove, and not back to back, but in consecutive matchups against those teams, if you beat, they beat Colorado in a game, I think one of the few games probably all year where Colorado was actually outplayed. I think the Wild outplayed them in that one. If they can do the same to Dallas, I think maybe they should enter that conversation of being in the same tier with those teams. Ottawa is probably the soft one here over the next 4 on Saturday. They're 13-12-4 in the season, 3-6-0 in their last 10. Have lost 3 in a row as of this recording on Wednesday. They're 25th worst team in the league. So that's your softer matchup. But, as we saw with these games this past week, just because they're lower in the standings doesn't mean they're not going to put up a fight. Boston, who somehow is the 10th best team in the league, 18-13-0, riding the Morgan.
Especially with how bad they started too.
Yeah.
Like I thought I didn't think Z was going to like survive the season.
When they've been missing McAvoy, I think, for a good chunk of the season. He took a slap shot to the jaw. He went on local news there. I was reading an article today about just like basically like my entire left jaw was like dislocated. I lost a bunch of teeth. Like was on a soft food diet for I think like 6 weeks because of it, like eating ice cream and soup basically. So they've been doing that without him. Morgan Geekie, I think, is top 3 in the NHL in goals right now. Like just crazy. So can't write them off. And then the Washington Capitals in town on Tuesday, 18-9-3, third best team in the league behind Colorado and Dallas. They're 8-1-1 in their last 10.
They're really buzzing. Ovi's point per game. Tom Wilson's leading the league in points. It's just by committee, which is just crazy. And hey, look, they got depth. So there you go. I'll be live tomorrow covering the Dallas game. Whenever I'm 2, I think in 6 on streaming the season, which means like Brett, I've gone live and only 2 times the Wild have won. So hopefully everyone, the chat's saying I'm cursed, or I'm the curse now. So hopefully things turn around against Dallas. I think well, I think because I'm streaming, they're probably going to lose against Dallas, but I think they beat Ottawa, beat Boston, and I think they get revenge against Washington, who made them look silly the last time they played them this season.
I think I saw someone say 2-2. I'll change that to 2-1-1. I think they'll get to overtime. I think the thing I'm really watching, they're going to continue this goalie rotation. I'm really curious to see how Wallstedt bounces back. Obviously, his worst showing of the season since the San Jose game against Vancouver, where he obviously had the turnover behind the net, led to a goal, probably led in 2 others that he wished he would have had back. I think got beat one on a 5-hole, kind of got beat on a shot high to his glove side. I think that he probably should have had. So seeing if he can really bounce back, like obviously hottest goalie in the league coming into that game against Vancouver. Elliot Friedman, I think, had tweeted out that he had shut out 3 of his 4 shutouts were against Canadian teams, which was because it was like Edmonton. I think there was one earlier, like Vancouver, maybe earlier in the year, and there's like one other one. But so really looking to see how he bounces back, and like we saw him really elevate in the Colorado game. So seeing if he can potentially do that again if they do in fact go back to him tomorrow. I think that's something I'm really watching. And then if they continue the rotation, continuing that momentum into the Boston game as well. They'll probably so Jets and Flames, and then it was I think a period. Or no, the Canucks, it was all in the first, but yeah, he had 2 shutouts at that point. So yeah.
Sweet, man. Well, excited to run down all the games next week. Excited to stay on Olympic watch. And yeah, I mean, basically, like, shoot, man, we're juniors in 3 weeks. Like every week leading up to them, we'll have more to talk about. So excited for those.
Yeah, and with the next 2 weeks being Christmas and New Year's, like probably no shows for those 2 weeks, or maybe one sprinkled in there if there's a day that makes sense. But so big show next week, and then yeah, it'll be a whole bunch with a bunch of Wild Games, World Juniors. Yeah,
a bunch of watch parties, which I'm sure Brett will hop on when he's free for like a segment or 2. I'll be mostly the face of the channel throughout that time, and then back to the norm come 2026. So excited for next week, man.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully we're talking about some wins against some pretty good teams here.
Hell yeah. All right, guys. Have a good rest of the week. We'll see you then.